Lighting a scene with multiple angles on a tight schedule can be quite challenging. So if you want to give the freedom to your director to shoot from different angles on a short time, you have to be very efficient with your lighting. You can end up wasting a ton of time if you turn around for a reverse shot and your frame is full with lighting equipment and you have to remove everything and basically relight the scene from scratch. My main goal in this scene was to create a lighting setup that requires minimal adjustments when we are switching between angles. To pull that off, we built our blocking around a window, which lets us do most of the lighting from the outside. Our main light source was an M40 on a crank-up stand, but actually we used a 2.5 kilowatt bulb instead of the 4 kilowatt bulb because we didn't have the power to operate it. For a midday daylight scene, it's actually considered a pretty small unit, so controlling the sun was key to prevent it from overpowering our HMI light. When we planned the schedule, I had to make sure that whenever we are facing a window with the camera, the exterior is backlit. That way the window was looking onto the shadow side of the exterior, that means less reflected light, thus less exposure. If the exterior had been front lit, the reflected light would have been completely blown out our windows, making it impossible to balance with the HMI. We also threw up some flags over the windows to block any direct sunlight. And here I gotta talk about the set design because originally the space looked totally different. It had orange decorations, orange shears that covered only the upper part of the windows, so we had a lot of things to do. Since it was actually a zero budget project, we had to bring stuff from home and from IKEA, which we later returned. The setup of this room really reinforced in me how important set design is. Without it, our location would have been practically unusable. So I asked for green blackout curtains, pastel green blackout curtains, shears and shutters. The blackout curtains were important not just for the color palette, but also for containing the light and preventing it from spreading freely all around the room. They kind of work like a frame and letting you to shape the light really precisely. The shears have to slightly diffuse the light, and by bunching them together I could create a nice variation in the shading that adds visual interest. With this technique you can also control the amount of light passing through. The closer you bunch them, the less light it lets through. And finally the cinematic cheat code, the shaders. They are just so great tools. By using hard light you can create very nice shadow patterns. You can also control the intensity of light by adjusting the angle of this shutter. And it just adds another layer of texture to the window. I just love them. So these were the steps that helped me to keep the details in the windows. By the way, I was using an FX3 with Zine cinema lens. Since I went for a darker, moody vibe, inspired by one of my favorite shows, The Outsider, I had to overexpose the image by one step. This way I could get cleaner and richer shadows, and that really matters, especially when the skin tones are sitting in lower IR ranges. Okay, so other than the shears, Hampshire frost was used for diffusion. It's a super light diffusion effect, just enough to slightly soften the edge of the shadows. But to be honest, even if I had wanted to use stronger diffusion, I couldn't have because I would have lost too much intensity. I think we even used a poly bounce from the outside to push some more level into the back of the room. The HMI was positioned in a way that the core of the lamp wouldn't light the faces. This way I could avoid harsh shadows on the faces, and on the wide shot I could create a nice slash of light in the background, the so-called soft hub that you may have already heard about from Wandering DP, when you have hard light on the body and soft light on the upper body and on the face. When the camera was on Sam and Juji, we had to add another light because the window wasn't wide enough, so the light wasn't wrapping around their faces enough. So we placed a poly bounce on the wall and used a 300D to bounce back some light on their faces, adding a bit more wrap. for the low angle shot where Sam slams the table, I wanted to make him look more intimidating. So I added a floppy in his shadow side to boost the contrast ratio on his face. When we turned around to shoot Nick's angle, the window light was too frontal. So we slid the table along the wall closer to the window to make the lighting more side-lit. It was a great little trick that worked perfectly. As long as you don't change too much, you are good. But if we had moved the table so far that the window ended up in the frame, we wouldn't have gotten away with it. In the background, a 600D was coming in through another Hampshire frost and the shear creating this beautiful shape on the wall. Actually, there were windows all along the wall, but we covered them with black fabric to keep the ambient level low. I guess this is my favorite shot. Everything falls into place to maximize depth. We are shooting into the corner. We have a nice checkerboard lighting, which means light and dark areas alternate. Light, dark, light, dark, and so on. It creates a more dynamic, a more three-dimensional image. The set design in the background was also positioned in a way to emphasize this checkerboard effect and to capture these nice specular highlights, creating some interest. There is also this nice specular highlight on Nick from the window. And Nick delivered a stunning performance that I captured with a stable push-in. It probably won't make it to the final edit, but still, I just love this shot. So that's all I wanted to cover in this video. Hope you found some useful info in there. Please let me know what do you think about this kind of breakdown video. Would be nice to hear some feedbacks. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I hope I will be able to answer them. Thanks for watching guys and see you in the next one.